And that was the day that Wise Women Gathering Place the idea was dreamed up.
Hello, I'm Kimberlie Acosta with Indian Country TV, and I'm here with Alice Skenandore. She's a Courte Ojibwe tribal member up in northern Wisconsin who lives on the Oneida Reservation, and she's the founder and director of Wise Women Gathering Place. Can you share with us what your organization's all about?
Yes, I can. I spent many years in my life, about 27 years, being a midwife, doing home births. Not a medically trained midwife, but a lay midwife, just women helping women type midwife. And I lived out in Nevada for the first 15 years when I was doing that, and moved back to Wisconsin. It was always my dream to come back home and share with Native women the joy and the importance of a great birth experience. And so right away when I moved back, my husband is Oneida, and we moved back to Oneida to help with the casino when they were first opening it up. And he went and did the casino business, and I started a women's group at my house, and we met about 8 years, for about 8 years running, every week on Monday, unless it was Christmas or something, with all of our children in tow. It was an all-day meeting, and my purpose in the meeting was to have the gathering, but also to take some part of the day to talk about midwifery and teach something. And that evolved over the years into many different types of teaching, not just me teaching, but everybody who participated would bring things that they could share. And we learned about herbs, and we learned about massage, and we learned about child rearing skills, and we learned about quilting and canning and soap making, and we just did amazing, wonderful things with all of our children with us. And we'd cook and take care of the kids and get them down for naps and find a time during the day. People used to come anywhere from 8, 9, 10 in the morning and stay till 3, 4, 5 in the afternoon. It was an all-day meeting. At the end of that time, near the end of that time, something happened that changed everything. I was invited to come to Minneapolis, to the Minneapolis Native Health Fair, and talk about home birth. And I was given like a good 2-hour time to talk about it. So I went over there and I did that. And when I came back home, about a week later, I got a phone call from New York City. And the person asked me if I would like to come to New York and do what I did at the Indian Health Fair. And I said, sure, I'd love to. That'd be great, you know. So I went over there, and I didn't know who I was going to be talking to. So I took 2 big suitcases with a few clothes in them, but mostly my books, my papers, my videos, to, if I was talking to doctors, or if I was talking to medical professionals or somebody that would question what I would assert, that I would have the backup from the World Health Organization or from the AMA or some other credible information that would back up what I'm saying is right about birth. And because I wanted to be ready for that. And I went there and I got another whole morning to talk. And there was like a big, huge table. There was about 40 women around the table, as I recall. And I talked about it, and I never got to use the videos. Everything just rolled. And everybody was totally engaged in what I was saying, and it was just a really good morning. But at the end of it, I had mentioned the videos a couple times about different issues I was talking about, and some of the women came over and said, I'd really like to see that video on circumcision, or I'd really like to see that video on breastfeeding, or whatever. So they ended up coming to my room that night, and we stayed up till 2 o'clock in the morning, and I just showed birth video after birth video after birth video after birth video, including videos of births that occurred in South America with no assistance whatsoever, just birth in a squatting position, and by the time that evening was over, every woman in that room had seen about 50 births.
Wow.
Which was my whole point. You know, it's like if you see it, you're going to see that it works. It's not the death knell that we've been led to believe that it is. Went back home, and about a month later, I got another call and said, well, are you ready to go to Savannah? And I said, I don't know anything about that. And they had been talking about that, but I didn't think it was about to include me. So I said, but I'll go. Yeah, sure. So I went to Savannah thinking I was going to do the same thing, carried my big suitcases again. But this time we were told that the Ford Foundation had, one of their program officers had reserved her entire portfolio. Her name was Rena Marcello, and she had reserved her entire portfolio to support women of color organizations and individuals who were working on urinary tract and reproduction health. And so she said she was going to throw it all at that cause. And what we were brought there for, there were 4 different Indian organizations, although I was just an individual at the time, not an organization. But they had different levels of organizations. There were grassroots organizations, which would be like me. Then there were, little local agencies, and then there were national organizations. So each branch of these, and they had 4 branches. They had African American, Latina American, Asian and Pacific Islander American, and Native American. And that's who they were going to focus on. And so there were 16 groups. I was not a group, again, but I was going to be one. And what she said was, I want you to write what you would do if you had money. What would you do with what you do now? And I said, well, that would take a lot of money. She says, just pretend you got all the money you need and write the story. So that whole day we spent writing, going off into the beautiful savannah and writing the story of what we would create if we had all the money we needed. And that was the day that Wise Women Gathering Place the idea was dreamed up. And then we found out at the end of the day, or the next day, that she was going to give me $150,000 to be used over the next 3 years to work towards that story.
Nice.
I know. I mean, it was like a grant that I never applied for. Didn't know what a grant was. I didn't know anything about that. And so anyway, for the next 3 years, we expanded. We bought more videos, more books. We bought models so that we could show people how to palpate a baby, where the baby's lying inside the mom, how you could check for dilation, different things. We bought just really dream stuff.
And you go over to different reservations.
I did.
And do presentations
I
and
did.
stuff.
I did
And
do that.
you've also created a program, I believe, called Discovery Dating. Can you give us like a brief synopsis of what that's all about?
Sure. Right during that women's group, that also came out of the women's group. Like I said, we met for different reasons to learn lessons, but every once in a while somebody would come in with a personal issue they were dealing with, and they would bring it to the table, and we would do whatever it was that this woman needed. We would listen, empathize, cry with her, offer her advice, offer her support, whatever she needed. If we could do it, we tried to do that. And then one day, there were about 10 of us there, and we were all coming with those issues. We were talking about different things like infidelity, alcoholism, child abuse, abandonment, money issues, child support issues. Just everybody was in a very bad state about dealing with their own personal lives around these types of issues. And so at some point I just said, look at us. We range in age from like 19 to 55. We're all smart. We're all capable. We're all strong. What are we doing wrong? How did we end up in this? And so I said, let's just try something. Let's all pass out some papers, and I said, let's all write down a list of all the things we look for when we look for a really wonderful relationship with a mate. And so we started writing, everybody quietly. And I collected all the papers, and I started reading the lists. And they were so high school, it was unbelievable. It was like, well, he's got to be good looking, he's got to have a good sense of humor, he's got to have nice teeth was on the list, actually, really was. And I said, our mates have these things. and it's still not working. Let's go deeper. Let's do this again and find out what we really look for. Now that we've gotten the superficial stuff out of the way, let's go deeper. What are the things that have hurt us? So then we go into writing this next list. And the new list had things like, well, they must be honest, they must be committed, they must be, good with money, they must be dependable. We came up with deeper qualities besides good looks.
So this discovery dating has a process that talks about dating in it. And you go to different reservations and try to encourage different tribes to incorporate discovery dating within programs, correct?
Well, I don't really go to them. They actually kind of come to us. We offer a training. I got so inspired that day that I wrote this book. And the book has a process for determining what your own values are and where you want to go, your goals. And then it has another process for determining what your person that you're looking at's values are and where they want to go. And then you can assess better or negotiate and plan how it will work or not work.
Okay,
you
and
have a better chance of
if
that.
someone wants to learn about the discovery dating or more about your organization, do you have a website where people can go?
We do. The name of the organization is Wise Women Gathering Place, and the address is wisewomengp.org.
Okay. Now, before we go, you're also having another exciting thing that you're doing. You have a trip coming up where you're going to Alaska with the International Indian Treaty Council?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that briefly.
Well, that was something I didn't know much about, that they called and invited me about 2 years ago to go to California and work on an issue about environmental impact. Well, actually, they don't call it environmental impact. They call it environmental violence on Native people, and with special regard to birth and reproductive time and the very early childhood, and how deeply it impacts our people. And so I was told that I was invited because of my midwifery experience. And I went and participated with a really amazing group of people from all over the country, all over the continent, that were activists in the environmental justice field. And I kind of felt a little out of place because I didn't really know that much about environmental justice, but I did know about birth. And so I made a contribution that way. And I've been invited to come back again. They really did a wonderful paper that you can read if you go on their website, which is treatycouncil.org.
Yep.
And they delivered that to the United Nations, and it explains what the issues are across the country. All these different people from everywhere brought their issues from their area.
And is that what they're doing in Alaska?
That's what they're going to be doing again in Alaska.
And what are you looking for in regards to this trip?
I am looking for sources and information about environmental impacts and environmental violence that is occurring at the homes of Native people
around the country,
Wisconsin and around our area here.
Okay.
To bring that with me, to talk about it and to shed light on it.
And how would someone get a hold of you if they wanted to help you with that?
Okay, well, you could go on our website and find all of our contact information, but our telephone number is 920-490-0627.
Okay. Well, I thank you for taking some time on your trip here to come and visit with us.
You're welcome.
And I'm Kimberlie Acosta with Indian Country TV.
Thank you. I lived out in Nevada for the first 15 years when I was doing that, and moved back to Wisconsin. It was always my dream to come back home and share with Native women the joy and the importance of a great birth experience.